Ciao loves, welcome to Drawing Down the Stars. This is Gemma with your month ahead reading for the 7th lunar month known as Septem. Now it's easy to see where we get the word September from septem, or also in Italian sette, which is 7. All right, in this lunar month, we'll start on the new moon, which if you're in the US will be on the 2nd. If you're in Europe, it'll be in the wee hours at 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning on the 3rd. So this is another reason why I'm such a big proponent of pulling a chart based off of your geolocation, because then you'll know exactly when the moon is rising. But as always, from Drawing Down the Stars and for astrological purposes and astronomical purposes, we use UTC or the Greenwich time, also known as London, England. So let's dive in. This new moon in this month is going to occur in Leo. Now, there is a co-rising with the star Regulus. However, it's a little bit behind the sun. That means that in the evening when the sun sets, you should be able to see the stars of Leo. This is important because we know that Regulus is one of the royal stars. It is the heart of the lion. But more deeper than the heart of the lion is its connection to Sekhmet, which is the Egyptian goddess of the lion head. She is very fierce. And the reason I bring this up is we can understand a little bit of the intonation that comes from this stellar position with our sun. Because of this position with the sun, we get a lot of fiery nature, as well as we'll dive into the lunar mansions. But this fiery nature is a purging nature. It is an overcoming of lesser nature. It is a very protective and active energy. And that is also seen based off of the moon's position. On the 2nd, it will be in Magha, which is the very cusp of Leo, the beginning. On the 3rd, it will be in Purva Falguni. Now, that is really important. So we have this influence and this an amalgamation of this active, fiery, protective energy that brings us into the 7th month. Now, remember that this month holds our autumnal solstice or the fall solstice. So we have a changing of seasons, a marking, a movement of what is the building up of the soul and the manifestation to now the back end, which is the spiritualization of this aspect. With the moon in this position going for the US on the 2nd in Magha and then into Purva Ashada on the 3rd, what we have is a greater influence of soul trying to come forward. And we also see this in the other planets' positions. Now, as always, I list the exact positions of each planet at the culmination of the new moon on the Notion page, and that link is included below. But here, if you look, we'll have an influence from Mercury, which is in its own lunar mansion at the end of Cancer. We have Mars, which is in its own lunar mansion in Gemini. And then we have an opposition from Saturn. Okay, so here we have Saturn in Aquarius looking over, and I want you to think of, again, these planetary influences on this lunation are going to be the forces that affect the month ahead, or this 7th month. They are forces that affect the atmosphere or the environment in which we coexist within, and which also arises within us. So Saturn's position in Aquarius across from the sun is going to help change the soul's mission. Now, the moon in the Purva Ashada Magha, what that does is we're actually going to have a little bit more greater connection to the soul. We'll receive messages from the soul. Again, Mercury's influence here is going to show things that lie deeper within, things that are unhidden. And then we have this opposition from Saturn in Aquarius, which is going to want us to move beyond the soul, but find new innovation, move beyond what we are impeding ourselves into. Now, what is amazing about this position from an individuated soul level is we have greater access to prophecy and experience. So that means when you think it, the time frame of which you experience it or which it comes into fruition is going to be truncated. It's going to be shorter. So prophecy into experience. Those 2 points are closer together in time. That is really important. Now, hear me again. From prophecy to experience are closer together in time. From point A to its experience within you and around you, time is getting shorter. This is also an influence from Saturn. It's almost as if Saturn's influence is allowing you to receive messages from the soul, things you might have forgotten, and also past life desires are going to come forward. This kind of blurs the waters, and it blurs not only in time or a concept of linear time, whether it's mechanical time being, okay, well, I thought about this and then I experienced it 24 hours later. That is quote unquote mechanical time. It's how we measure time. But I want you to think about our concept of time becomes blurred. So when you think it, you see it, you experience it. This is going to alleviate previous restrictive natures that were because of the ego. Now, ego is not bad, but it is the framework of how we see ourselves and how we experience or create a co-creative experience. This ties back into prophecy to experience. When those restrictive natures from previous thought processes are alleviated, we have a greater access into wisdom. We have a greater access into tapping into what these messages are or how we are guided or what we are to know and bring into experience both within ourselves and our collective. Now let's go back. We have again that influence for Sekhmet. Remember I said that Mars is in its own lunar mansion of Mrigashira in Gemini. This is going to be really important because I'm going to tie it into the Greco-Roman festivals. Then we have Jupiter, which is also in the lunar mansion of Mrigashira, however, in the house, the sign of Taurus. Mars is in Gemini. They're both in the same lunar mansion. As you can imagine, that lunar mansion straddles two signs. What that means is we have a conjunction within the mental aspect, but not within the physical aspect. Jupiter is seeking more abundance. Mars is going to seek change and movement from the mental frame. Here we have Sekhmet, the goddess of protection. We have this greater connotation of this month is indicating that not only are we going to receive messages from the soul, what we see and how we experience is going to change. The soul is going to be alleviated from previous connotations or restrictions. But this is the point within the time frame or within our yearly evolutionary cycle in which the soul is going to seek higher spiritual natures. We will straddle certain old desires from a previous life, desires that were once thought that you wanted, no longer want. These little influences is where this power to overcome, i.e. Sekhmet, is going to move us. This month, the 7th month, is very indicative of a transition. Last month in Sextilis, the 6th month, it was very representative of feminine energy, abundance, brewing the last harvest. Now we have everything has come into fruition. Now, how do we spiritualize it and allow that ideation of the soul to come into experience? So these are all of these influences that I just covered. Now, these previous restrictive natures that are influences from the past are because it allows you to overcome that. Can you create a higher ideation of the self, i.e., can you spiritualize it? This is where overcoming desires that are only in the immediate result need to be overcome. Prophecy to experience, what you see, what you outline, what you hold for yourself, the time in which that becomes into experience is truncated. Use these natures and qualities within you to overcome and to move things into a higher sense of abundance. All right, now let's break into the other deities that are indicative of or that are being represented in the lunar mansions, and then we'll correlate it to the gods or the festivals in the lunar solar calendar from the Greco-Roman. All right, so the deity from the Vedic side is Bhagha, and it stands for procreation. This ruling deity will help us understand that this position is marked by creativity, procreation, luck, and also the bearance of children. When we talk about the procreation and bearance of children, it is essentially generation or regeneration. It is lineage. Again, we talk about the time frame of the past and what you are regenerating from past. From you or yourself, if you have children, are the procreator of the next generation. That child is then going to have an aspect of its generation, right? Of its parents, of its predecessor. This is really important because Bhaga represents procreation, luck, bearance of children. In this month, we have 5 primary festivals. It's not as active as last month because this is a transitionary period. This is again what Sekhmet protects, the transition from the self-created ideation of the soul or the individuated from this point, and now its journey into the spiritualization, moving into the next aspect or the solstice, right? It's going to move us into more of the darker, the decline of activity. So this energy is very active, as procreative energy is. It's indicative of generation and abundance. On the first lunar day, which is the new moon, today is on the 3rd. It represents thunder, spark. It is Jupiterian energy. So the first 3 festivals are overseen by Jupiter. Jupiter is wisdom. It is abundance. It's also Zeus. On the 3rd, we will have, it is representing thunder, a strike of lightning, new movement, new activity. On the 5th lunar day, which is September 7th, Jupiter is a stabilizing force. Okay. And this represents on this day when the moon enters Chitra, we will have more of a stabilization, more of building the foundation and the framework. And this is important because the moon begins in Purvashada, which is a 4-post bed. When we talk about children, when we talk about forbearance, we talk about creating a next generation or part of a foundation. So on the 5th, September 7th, we have more of this energy that is focused on what we are building that is foundational in our creative endeavors, in our legacy. On the 16th lunar day, which is the full moon, falling on September 18th, we have Jupiter Maximus. This is a culmination of this expression. It is said to be culminate your wisdom, culminate what you are seeking to bring into creation, culminate that which stabilizes for the next ideation and your spiritual evolution. Okay, on the 23rd, which is September 25th, there is an honoring of Latona. Latona is the Roman variation of Leda, which is the Greek goddess who is the mother of Apollo and Artemis, the twins, represented by in Gemini, masculine, feminine. Again, this energy essentially is Jupiter is the father that impregnates Leda, and she bears children, the twins, Artemis and Apollo. Now, this is important because we have the masculine, feminine nature. Here again, we have the children, the next generation from wisdom, from abundance, from that moves forward in stabilization. And then the last festival, represented in this month, is on the 26th lunar day or the 28th of September. And this honors Venus Genetrix. Now, if you're in Rome, you can still see this Venus Genetrix. The statue is in the Capitoline Museum. 2, you can go to the temple, which still stands in partiality at the Roman Forum. However, Venus of Genetrix represents family, generation. Think of that name, Genetrix. It is indicative also looking back and mirroring the same concept of the Vedic deity Bhaga, which stands for procreation, luck, and the bearance of children. So here we start to understand that this month will unfold wisdom, new action, activity, protection towards the spiritualization of the soul and ideation of self. We also have now the actions and the activity that should be going towards children or procreation, abundance. These are luck. This is a generation that will create more stabilization. Okay. Now, when we think about that and we have all of these festivals, what we do is we start to understand what we are working with, how our heavens, again, as always, are influencing our life on earth. And when we work with the wisdom to procreation, we get to see that the ideation here is the I. Remember I said prophecy to experience, the I, that which you see within, that which is beyond time, that which is power from within, not off of a framework from the past. The past is used solely for the next generation of spiritual procreation. We utilize this to create another foundation. Purva Falguni is part of what the Vedics call the four-post bed, that which we find comfort, but also that which stabilizes, that which holds us above the ground, that which lifts us up. It is a point of which you are carried, not only through your comforts and abundance, but that which you are elevated, okay? These energies are it has an ability for you to set your mind on fire. Another aspect of Purva Ashada is the correlation to Shiva, the masculine energy of action, of impulse. Being very mindful of not using this impulse to old actions or impulse to immediate desires. You want prophecy into experience. We want to make sure that we're using creative actions and procreation that is going to create a foundation for abundance and regeneration. This will become more evident when we move into the full moon. Again, the full moon marks the halfway point of the month. So we can always just tune into the moon to figure out where we are in the lunar month. New moon begins the month, full moon halfway through, but it brings into full light that which the new moon was intending, that which was unfolding. We have this royal star of Regulus that is co-rising. We have these influences of wisdom, of activity, and of regeneration that will become more prevalent on the 18th, which is in the new moon, the full moon will be in the lunar mansion of Uttara Bhadra. That's in Pisces. That is also under the rulership of Saturn. This is a deeply spiritual and isolating aspect because it is separating the shaft, or what is it, the wheat and the shaft, right? So one can feel separated. You are essentially separating yourself from any influences that might taint your prophecy to experience. Anything that might allow a little bit more introspection, because on the full moon, which is Jupiter to Maximus on September 18th, the lunar day is the 16th. Again, all of this is included in the Notion link. You will bring into full light that which your soul is speaking into you. So pay attention to the little signs. Pay attention primarily to what you read. Because of because of Mercury's position here, the forces, pick up a book. Do that thing where you open a book and you pull up a random page. Listen, read. This is going to access different aspects of wisdom and messaging into what you are supposed to uncover within yourself. This position of Bhaga from the ancients is said, and according to Bipin Bihari, is a symbol of divine creativity and the power of nature. Its radiation is for the future of your next ideation. I want you to think its inner qualities become unveiled. Tap in, allow an eagerness of new development to be expressed, not to use it towards lust or hunger or to mobilize any type of immediate gratification. That's what we're supposed to overcome. Think of Sekhmet, this goddess. Utilize this spiritual energy to mobilize a pure experience, a pure sense of bliss and delight that will unfold and allows you to really tap into that by the full moon, and then the full moon you work with it in a different way. All right, my loves, that's it for your 7th month new moon reading and month ahead. Be well, stay well, and don't forget to work with what is within you and what is around you. Ciao.